Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Hall. I'm a community manager at Canonical, and I wanted to talk about something that we've started offering LoCo Teams, which is meetup.com chapter accounts. To give a little bit of backstory, we have had the LoCo Team portal available to LoCo Teams for a while. It's at loco.ubuntu.com. It is something that was developed by the community for supporting the LoCo community. It lets you define events already and host events and list who's coming to those. It's worked out really well for us for quite a while. It's had a number of maintainers over the years. I was one of them. That's how I got my start in the Ubuntu community. But as nice as it is, it's really only been accessible to people who were already in the Ubuntu community and were aware of it. It wasn't really good for finding new community people who want to get involved in a local community. So that was kind of a barrier that we've struggled with for quite some time now. The idea of using meetup.com was something that came to us from members of the community who are members of other communities that were using it for other projects, and they said that there was a lot of potential to bring in new users that way. So we looked into it, and they've offered something that lets us pay for a certain number of chapter accounts for our different community teams. And that lets you get some extra visibility. Meetup.com is a huge platform that has millions and millions of users. At any given location, there's probably thousands and thousands that you will be exposed to just by using a Meetup.com account. So that's something that you couldn't get from the LoCo Team portal. Now, we're not planning on shutting down the LoCo Team portal, and we certainly don't want to discourage its use. We see Meetup.com as more of a complement to what that offers already. So we want you to still use the LoCo Team portal and put your events in there, but then also use Meetup.com as a way to reaching out to more people than that. In the same way that we encourage people to use things like Facebook or Twitter to reach more people where they actually are already. So we started a pilot program with this. We've been running it for several months now, since late summer, I believe. We've got 6 teams set up already. And if you go to meetup.com/pro/Ubuntu, I will share my screen, you can see that. So this is what you'll see. We've got our few teams in Europe, a couple teams in the US who have been using it. Only 6 teams, but you can see here we've already got 1,400 members who have signed up for it. So that's a pretty significant exposure for the time that we've been using it. So we see a lot of potential here, and we want to start scaling this out to more teams across the world. We have noticed that even though we have quite a few people registering to attend and becoming members of these teams, the actual attendance rate for people who say they're attending events has not been as high as LoCo Team Portal. But that's okay, because overall it's still more people than you would have gotten otherwise. So just kind of expect that to be the case, but build out your exposure. And if you get 100 new members and only 10 new people attending your events, that's still 10 new people attending your events. So that's worth it right there. The actual program itself was brought up to the Community Council last year and was approved by them to use for the Ubuntu community. It's, like I said, it's being paid for by Canonical. We get a certain number of chapter accounts for the Pro account that we've purchased. So we get to make those available to LoCo teams themselves. And the way they do that is going through the LoCo Council. The LoCo Council is the overall management body for LoCo teams, and so we're giving them the authority to assign these chapter accounts. In order to do that, you just have to have a LoCo team already, something that's active and having events already. If you don't have one in your area, feel free to start one and get it off the ground. If there is one in your area and you're not part of it, then go join that team and start getting involved in their events and help them grow. Once you have an active team, you can just go to the LoCo Council. They have an email address. It's loco-council@list.ubuntu.com. And just say, I've got this LoCo team. We've got these events going already. We want to start taking advantage of meetup.com. You don't have to be a verified LoCo team in order to get this. We've really left this wide open to the LoCo Council, how they want to give out these chapter accounts. We've put very little restrictions in place. That said, if you are a verified LoCo team already, there's absolutely no reason you shouldn't get this. So just send them an email, tell them that you want to have a meetup.com account, and they will be able to set that up for you and set you as an organizer. You do have to pick a city for your meetup.com account. One major difference between them and the LoCo Team portal is that they are city-based, and our LoCo Teams are generally country-based. So what we've been telling people to do is just pick a major city or a central city that can be used as kind of the anchor for their meetup team and their LoCo team. That's worked out pretty well for some. Others, if it's a big, geographically big team, like the California team is an example, where they've got a large group of people up in the northern part of the state and another large group of people in the southern part of the state, but there's really too much distance between them to get a lot of cross activity between those members. So in cases like that, where you've got maybe two major cities in a country, you can request to get a second meetup.com chapter account for your LoCo team so that you can cover both of those cities. Again, we put little restrictions on what kinds of accounts the local council can create, but we do have a limited number, so we don't want to just open it up to anybody to request one. We want to make sure that these are being used and used well. So that's an option there. Again, it's up to the local council how they want to do that. Once you get your chapter account set up, you'll want to set up some team organizers. Organizers are the ones who can actually create events for your team. Let's see, am I still screen sharing? Yes. Okay, so here's the Florida LoCo team. You can see we've got a bunch of events set up, quite a few attendees who've been using it already. You can list all of your members who have joined your account. They don't have to be on Launchpad or join a Launchpad team, which is something they had to do with the LoCo team portal. So you set up your organizers. You can have as many co-organizers, I think, as you want on your team. And those organizers are the ones who can create events and manage the events on your team. You've also got discussion groups if you want those, but we do encourage you to use the Ubuntu provided platforms as much as possible. We don't want you to move off of like Ubuntu mailing lists or Ubuntu forums because we do have very little control over what happens with what's on meetup.com. So once you have your chapter account set up and your organizers defined, you can start creating your events. They don't have to be in the city that your event is or that your LoCo team is located in. For example, Florida's LoCo team is based out of Miami, but we had a release party up here in Orlando just recently. So even though it's centered in a city, you can put the event anywhere you want it to be. When you do that, we encourage you to, again, keep using the LoCo team portal. So that, unfortunately, right now means setting up an event in both locations. We are looking at the meetup.com API to see if we can maybe automatically create events either from Meetup into LTP or vice versa so that you don't have to do it twice. But for right now, unfortunately, you do. It's a little bit of a headache, but it's not that bad. One thing you can do is link the registration for your LoCo team or your LoCo team portal event to your Meetup event so that people don't have two different places they can register as attending. When you create your event in LTP, one of the fields is the registration link. If you leave that blank, it'll use the built-in one. But if you have a meetup.com event for the same thing, then point people over to there. That way there's only one place where you can list all of your attendees. We also encourage you to upload photos to meetup.com. That really helps show off the activity of your LoCo team. And then add your LoCo team to add your meetup.com page to your LoCo team wiki. This will help you when it's time for team verification or re-verification so that the LoCo council can see all of your events and pictures from your events and the activity that your team has been doing. And lastly, we want to get feedback from people who are using this. Like I said, this is something that Canonical is paying for. We have to re-sign up for it every 6 months. So we want to make sure that it's being used and it's a good way for us to spend money on the community. So please, as you're using it, let us know. If you have technical problems with the account or the site itself, you can come to the community team. That's myself, Daniel Holbach, or Alan Pope, and we can help. We will liaise with the meetup.com folks on that to get whatever the problem is sorted out. If you want to just give general feedback about the use of it for your team, take that to the local council. We're going to be relying heavily on them to tell us what's working and what's not, and advise us on whether or not we should continue offering this to teams. So talk to them. If you're happy with it, let them know. If you're not happy with it, let them know that too. We want to make sure it's useful, and again, that the money that we're spending on this is being used wisely and not better spent somewhere else. So that is really all there is to it. Again, if you are in a LoCo team, this is something that's available immediately. You can sign up for it today if you want. All right, I'm going to go to IRC then and see what questions there are. All right, Coder Europe has asked, could you create a plugin for Firefox or add-on for meetup.com? I'm not sure what kind of plugin you would like to have. Obviously, it's possible to write Firefox plugins, but it's all going to depend on what exactly you want it to do. So can you expand on that question a little bit more and say what you would like in a plugin? Community events page. In general, we always encourage you to use a Creative Commons license. We are a sharing-based community, so the default should always be a license that allows for sharing and resharing of whatever you're making or whatever you're doing. We do like to use pictures of LoCo Teams and LoCo Team events in presentations, in promotions that we're doing on our blogs or anything like that. So if you use a Creative Commons license, that saves people from having to track down who the creator of that content is and getting their release to use it in that. I know I myself have used many LoCo Team event pictures in presentations talking about LoCo Teams and the Ubuntu community. So unless you have a good reason not to, stick with Creative Commons. All right, Coder Europe has expanded on his first question. He wants an add-on for iCal meetups for Thunderbird and Lightning extension. You might be able to get an iCal feed from meetup.com already. Let me see. I would be surprised if you can't somewhere. Check the source. Wow, there's a lot of meta here. All right, yeah, there's an RSS feed for events. I do not see an iCal though. All right, so that's something that we can ask them to provide. Otherwise, the RSS you can use. I believe LoCo Team Portal has iCal support. So if teams are putting them in both locations like we've recommended, then you'll be able to get your calendar feed from LoCo Team Portal, if not meetup.com. Yeah, hang on one second. Coder Europe is asking for a link to the RSS feed. So let me grab you the one I was just looking at. And go find it again. Hang on one second. All right, so I'm going to post this into the IRC, but it's meetup.com/UbuntuFL for the Florida LoCo team /events/RSS. All right. Matt V1 is asking, says, meetup.com seems well suited to be helpful for Ubuntu global jams, but I'm not sure if they still are going to be planned in the future. Yes, we do plan on doing global jams in the future. We missed out on the last cycle. We had quite a bit going on in the community team, and by the time we realized that it was time for a global jam, it was really too late to start organizing one. So that was a mistake on our part. We do plan on continuing those, however. So yes, it will be good for global jams. LoCo Team Portal's good for global jams too. We can list them both. But it will be helpful to see what teams around the world are participating in that. Again, we only have 6 teams using meetup.com right now, so the main priority is to start getting more teams on board with that. So talk to your LoCo team, ask them if they want to use it, and if so, somebody email the LoCo Council and get yourself added. It is a really good way to get yourself in front of a lot more people. There are so many technology-related meetups around, and there's a lot of people who look in their area for anything like that. So just creating your meetup.com account is going to get you quite a few people who never knew there was a LoCo team in their area to begin with. So it's great advertising for that. All right, any more questions? I kind of figured this would be a rather short session. Everybody's probably over learning how to build stuff in Launchpad, which I was hoping to go to also. But. All right, Coder Europe asks, what license is the RSS feed under for the Ubuntu Meetup.com feed? I have no idea. That's a Meetup.com content. I would imagine it's freely usable, though. If you're worried about licensing, use the LoCo Team portal. There's several feeds. There's also a JSON REST API that you can use to get all of the LoCo Team portal information out of. So if you want to consume data for some other purpose, that's probably your better bet. In fact, I can go get you a link to information about that. There we go. All right, so for Coder Europe, there is this wiki page, which describes the REST API that we offer for the LoCo Team portal. That'll get you events, teams, team members. If a team is using LoCo Team portal for their regular IRC meetings, you'll get the agendas for those and any agenda items or decisions that came out of that. It's a very flexible API. There's no rate limit or anything on that. There's no restrictions on use. All I ask is that you please don't write something that's going to hammer that server and bring the site down. All right, I will give a few more minutes for other questions, but I think we are more or less done here. From here on out, it's going to be going to the LoCo Council. So email loco-council@list.ubuntu.com or go to #Ubuntu-LoCo Teams on IRC. They usually are in there during their waking hours, and you can ping them or talk to other people involved in LoCo Teams there. One more from Coder Europe. What is there in terms of funding for LoCo and or just locally maintained groups for the meetup.com meetups? Okay, so for funding the actual event, for things like food or drinks or like conference swag or anything like that, we've got a couple programs. We have a LoCo Pack, which is something that we offer to any verified LoCo team, and that gives you just some basic swag and stuff that you can use within your team. So it's got pens and stickers. I think it comes with a tablecloth if you're signing up for it the first time. some hats or shirts sometimes. We don't do DVDs anymore, but I think we're giving LoCo Teams USB sticks now, so Ubuntu branded USB sticks. So that's something that you can request just from being a verified LoCo team. For individual events, we also have the Community Donations Fund, which you can get from community.ubuntu.com. This is money that people have donated to Canonical specifically for use by the community. So we take those funds and we let people in the community request travel expenses or event expenses, like I said, food and drinks. And then the community team will go through those requests and make sure that they're valid requests and that's a good use of the money. And then we send those out to LoCo teams. So if you're interested in that, I will get you that link real quick. And this is a really good way to contribute to the Ubuntu community also. If you're not a developer or you don't have time to spend on documentation, but you want to just throw a little bit of money to help the community, this is a really good way to do that. Here is the link. I'm going to again paste this in IRC, but if you're just watching the video, it is community.ubuntu.com/help-information/funding. And in there's a link to the request form where you can put in your request for the use of some of that money. We also provide quarterly reports on how this is being used. So if you have any question about the benefit of it, who's using it, and what it's done for the community, you can go through and look at those reports. We've sponsored a number of Linux and open source events. We've sent quite a few Ubuntu people to go speak at those events or run booths at them. We sponsored LoCo team events or swag for their events. All kinds of stuff that we've funded over the years. It's been tens of thousands of dollars already that we've been able to put back into the community this way. So this has been a really good program. Coder Europe asks, which is better for family events, a bar or a tent outside? In the US, I would say a tent outside, because our bars, unlike pubs in Europe or in the UK at least, our bars are not generally family friendly. They're not even really good group event locations because they tend to be loud. They tend to be dark and stuffy, and it's not a real great environment for that kind of team event. So tent outside. Restaurants are good. Coffee shops are good. There are all kinds of places where you can have a good team event. Coda Europe asks, wouldn't it be better if Canonical produced a pack for these sorts of events? We do have packs for LoCo teams. In the past, we've also had a pack for global jams if your team was hosting a global jam. The problem with doing it just generically for any kind of meetup event is that they vary in size and in topic and in location so much that we couldn't really put together a single pack that would work for all of them. LoCo team events can be as small as 2 or 3 people at a coffee shop just sitting around their laptops, hacking on something Ubuntu related or talking about it. Or it could go all the way up to the French LoCo team had like 1,000 or some odd people at one of their release parties. So one pack definition wouldn't really work for all of those. So we tend to tailor it to what you specifically need. For your events, you can say exactly how many people you think are going to be there, how much you're going to need to spend on food and drink, if you need to rent the location for the evening or something, how much that's going to cost. So we can really tailor it specifically to what your needs are. All right, wow, Coder Europe has got all of the questions today. It's asking, as far as music at the event, if it is a free license, is that okay to play? Your team events are up to you how you want to run them. If you want to have a DJ out playing non-free licensed songs, that's fine. I've done that. We actually have a DJ in the Florida LoCo team who came out and did some music for one of our events, which is really cool if you happen to have a DJ on your team. If not, just put on the radio, play Pandora or Spotify or whatever. It's not something where we really have to worry about the licensing of the music that you're playing. All right, next question. Tell us a bit about your last Ubuntu meetup event, please. So the last one I went to was about a week ago. It was in Kissimmee, just outside of Disney, which is about a 30-minute drive for me. And that was the Ubuntu Florida LoCo Team release party. So we all met at a pizza restaurant. There were, Aaron Honeycutt could correct me, but I think there was about 10, 20 people at this event. So it was a pretty good turnout. We had several tables all together that we were able to sit at least close enough to each other that we can have a lot of cross conversation. And it was it was a birthday for one of our team members, so Aaron had arranged to get him a surprise gift that was kind of nice. So yeah, they can be that simple. You just say, hey, everybody, let's meet up at this restaurant at this time. You show up, you eat, you talk, you have fun. There doesn't have to be anything more involved than that for your LoCo event. Next question, what about weather? Should we plan for an alternative location inside if it has a downpour of rain? You know your weather better than I do. In Florida, there are parts of the year where we just always assume it's going to rain in the afternoon. So we know if we're planning an event, don't do it outside during that part of the day, during that part of the year. Otherwise, you just kind of wing it. Man, where did you get all these questions? What about Wi-Fi? How do you let people know about the password? That's not really been that big of a concern. Usually when you get together with people, there's just a lot of talking. You're not on your laptop that much, unless it's like a global jam and you're doing some work, in which case, if you're at someone's house, they share the Wi-Fi password. If you're at a coffee shop or a restaurant, just find out what the Wi-Fi is there. It's not really that complicated. Somebody figures out what it is and tells everybody else. But like I said, for the most part, if you're meeting up just to talk and hang out with people, then put your laptop away, stick your phone in your pocket. This is a community, and communities are about people, not the technology. So get to know the people and just have a good time. So these are all really great questions. We've kind of gone off the meetup.com topic, but that's okay. If you want to learn more about LoCo Teams, join the LoCo Team channel here on IRC. Again, that's #Ubuntu-LoCo Teams. Go to loco.ubuntu.com to find a team in your country, and on their team page will be links to their mailing list or their website where you can get in touch with them. All right, the next question is, what prizes would you give in terms of a quiz from the Canonical store? The LoCo Team pack that I was telling you about earlier usually comes with like some shirts or some hats, which make for really good prize giveaways. They don't have to be something expensive. It's a quiz. It's all for fun. Everybody likes a free shirt. So those are the best thing I would suggest. All right, any more questions, Coder? Yes, he does. When will there be an Ubuntu Steamboat party? I do not know. We have had some interesting team events or like cross-leg events. The Ubuntu UK LoCo Team and Lug has this really fun thing that they do where they have a beer train where I think it's once a year they go out, they get on a train goes up and then down, and the whole way they're getting beer and wine or whatever, and just hanging out and having a good time. Creative stuff like that's really a lot of fun. I've had a giant barbecue here at my house years back where I cooked up a whole bunch of ribs and pulled pork and brisket and stuck some corn and other vegetables on the smoker, and we had like 60 people over just to eat and have fun. So get creative with your events. It's a great way to get to know the people in your LoCo team as people and not just being something that's centered around the technology. What about a party on a train in the US? So the US is not well known for its trains. we have very limited train service, and the ones that we do have are not real great. I would certainly not want to have a party on an Amtrak here in the U.S. Um, that is one of the areas where the UK and the rest of Europe has definitely done a better job than we have, is public transportation and trains. Hi, there's Alan. So Alan's one of the ones that goes on this the real ale train, as it's called, and I hear about this every year, and I'm jealous about it every year. Maybe one time I will be in London when that's happening, and I'll get to go. All right, next question. How do we let people know on, say, the Launchpad cyclist group that there's a meetup.com event in the future? How far ahead can you plan? You can plan as far out ahead as you want. I don't know of any limit on meetup.com. There's certainly no limit on LoCo Team portal to how far ahead you can plan it. I wouldn't plan too far out. Like, don't do it years in advance, just because people come and go. Life happens, and people who were organizing events have to move on. But you can do it 6 months in advance easily. If you've got a Launchpad team already, chances are there's a mailing list you can use to contact them to let them know about your events. Is there a Launchpad cyclist group? And if so, is it geographically centered somewhere, or is it a global thing? Give him a minute to answer. I will say, just to add on to my previous answer, don't plan it in too short a notice either. It's sometimes hard for people to make or change plans, a week ahead of the event. So try and do it a month to 2 months out when you start your planning. That gives people time enough to actually see if they can attend, and it makes sure that they don't plan something else for the same day and time before you announce it. All right. Would we get funding for Ubuntu group flyers for events? Yes, we do. You can use the community donations request for that. Just get an estimate first. So figure out how many flyers you're going to want to have, find somebody who can print them, and see what it would cost to get those printed, and just list all of that information in your request itself. It's probably not something that's going to be real expensive, so I don't think you would have any problem getting approved for that. Okay, so if the cycling group's not geographically centric, I'm not sure how useful it would be to let them all know about an event that you're doing. Unless you want to try and coordinate a global event that multiple teams will take part in. If you want to do that, then talk to the local council. They're the ones who can create local global events in loco.ubuntu.com. And if they set that up for you, then all the different teams can add their own event to that, so that you can see which teams are participating around the world and when and where those events are going to take place. Next question is, how long should an Ubuntu event last? Again, this is something that's going to depend on your team and your event. We have something called Ubuntu Hours, which is something that a lot of teams do on a regular basis. So, the same day every month, or the same day every week, they just get together for an hour. There's no set topic. There's no agenda. There's nothing they're going to try and accomplish in that. It's just a regular opportunity to, hang out with your friends in your local community. If you're doing a release party or something, then that's something that's probably going to be multiple hours, especially if you've got people driving from far away. You don't really want to have, a short event with, a very long trip on either side of it. Global jams, going to take some more time depending on what you're trying to get done. If you want to have like a big long hack session, then that's something that might be an all-day thing. An hour is probably close to the lower end of this. Obviously, there's no strict definition on how long they have to be, but an hour is really, the smallest unit of time, really, I think that teams would plan for. Anything less than that just doesn't quite seem worth it. Next question, what about people who want to fly in? How do we let them know about accommodation? If you have a big event, then if you've got an event page where you can list accommodation information, do that. If you're running an UbuCon, which is a locally organized Ubuntu conference, either standalone or co-hosted with something else, we do have ubucon.org where we list all of the ones that we know of that are going on. If you want to organize and run one in your area, let us know and we can give you access to that site and you can use it to promote your UbuCon and list your accommodation details there. And again, if it's an UbuCon or some other event where an Ubuntu member wants to travel there to give a presentation or run an Ubuntu booth, then they can use the community donations to get their travel and their accommodations paid for. And we can do that ahead of time too, so that you're not out of pocket for that. But please, make the request far enough ahead of time that we can review it and approve it and get you the money transferred to your bank so it's available for you to use. Next is, do we get reductions for USBs from the Canonical store? Who should we ask? I think he means discounts on USBs. We have, like I said, the LoCo Team Pack should come with some USBs. If you need more than that, you can use the donations request. So if you know that you're going to have an event with like 100 people attending and you want to get 100 USBs for them, use the community donations request to ask for that. There is no way that I know of to apply like a discount code or something to the Canonical store itself. So the community donations fund is the right place to ask for that. That'll come to the community team and we can work you out something that way. How do we get John O'Bacon to come to our event to give a talk? Is he still Canonical? No, Jono hasn't been at Canonical for two and a half years now. He's been gone for quite some time. If you want to get in touch with him, you can find him at johnobacon.org. He does travel around quite a bit to events to give talks. So if you have a big event coming up, you can ask if he would come there and give a talk on a topic. He talks mostly about community topics now, community building. So if you can have an event that would be in line with that, your chances of getting him there are better than if it's just like a leg event. Next question, should we invest in name tag for staff for meetup.com events? I would say only if it's a big event. If it's a small team event, just do a round of introductions, let people get to know each other that way. But if it's going to be something bigger, if you've got like 50 or 100 people coming and you want to get some name tags, then yeah, that might be worth it. It can be as simple as just like some "hello, my name is" stickers that cost like $10 for a pack of 50. Are there any Irish links for, say, a St. Patrick's Day events? I'm not quite sure what you mean. If you want to do a St. Patrick's Day event, then go right ahead. We have, there's nothing Ubuntu specific about that. I don't think I've seen any St. Patrick's Day specific events or other kind of holiday specific events from any of the LoCo teams. But there's no reason not to. If you want to, your team wants to. If you're the Massachusetts LoCo team and you want to have a big St. Patty's Day celebration in Boston, then sure, go for it. Next is, should we go with DVDs or USBs for events? Since we don't produce DVDs anymore, USBs really are your only option from us. If you want to have some DVDs made for your event, you can do that. We've got some DVD sleeve and label artwork available online that you can use if you wanted to produce your own. And again, you can use the community donations fund to cover that cost if you'd like to. But DVDs aren't something we provide anymore. We do provide USBs though. And the next question, what about hot plugging? Should we invest in an event where you can plug in your laptop to the mains? Oh, if you mean providing power, if it's going to be an event where you expect people to be on their laptops and doing some work, then yeah, you should make sure that there's some power outlets available. Bring some extension cords or a power strip if you can. But that's only for events where you plan on actually doing work. If it's just a social get-together or a release party, then it's not a concern because, again, you should be hanging out with the people and enjoying your time with them and not on your laptop the whole time. All right, any other questions, Coder Europe? I appreciate all these questions, by the way. It would have been a much shorter presentation without you here, so thank you for that. There's the next one. What puzzles should we do at the ubuntumeetup.com event that work for people who use Ubuntu? Do you mean, by puzzles, do you mean like a quiz? If so, there've been quite a few that are like history trivia about Ubuntu or about Mark Shuttleworth, the founder of Ubuntu. I like to quiz people on release names, especially some of the older ones. There are some goodies there. For example, everybody knows that release names go in alphabetical order, but not everybody knows that it wasn't like that originally. So the first two releases were Warty Warthog and Hoary Hedgehog. So we have not actually had an A or a C release name yet, but we have now had two H's and two W's because of that Warty and Hoary release. So that's good trivia that not a lot of people know, and it's fun watching people try and guess that. All right, any other questions? If not, we're only about 10 minutes early now, so we can wrap this up and we can all go have slightly more time for lunch or dinner, depending on your time zone. All right, so I'm going to answer this last question from Coder Europe, and then I'm going to wrap up. And then, Coder, if you have any more questions about LoCo Team events, please join that #Ubuntu-LoCo Teams IRC channel. There are a lot more people in there than just me, so you can get more help and more advice in that channel. All right, so the last question is, what about non-touching policies for Ubuntu women? I've heard DEF CON has those. Are they applicable for not hassling people? If you are running a larger event like an UbuCon, then I would encourage you to have some kind of anti-harassment policy in place. The exact details of that and the extent of it is up to you, but it is good to have something there just to let people know that, you know, the kind of inappropriate behavior or comments that they might be concerned about are not going to be tolerated. And just having that message out there is comforting to a lot of people. It knows that if something does happen, that the event organizers have their back on that, and they're not going to try and just excuse somebody else's bad behavior. That's something that's good to have for larger events. That's not something that's generally needed for LoCo Team events. If you've got 10 people meeting up at a restaurant, it's much more casual, much more trying to find the right word for it here. Usually you know everybody, and that's not a problem. If it is, then it's something to deal with inside your LoCo team. If you have somebody who's acted inappropriately at some of your events, it's perfectly okay to pull them aside and talk to them about it. If it continues, tell them that they're not invited to these events anymore because of that. I have not heard much about this being a problem for smaller events, but if it is and you need some help with it, the community council is available to help you, either talking to members of your community, or if we need to get involved with actually telling them not to participate in your LoCo team anymore, or to leave somebody alone. we can do that. There's a whole course of action that can be taken to try and improve that kind of situation if it happens. But again, it very rarely does, and hopefully it's not something anybody here will have to deal with. All right, well, thank you for watching. Thank you, Coder Europe, for keeping me talking. I appreciate all of these questions. And I hope that we'll see some more LoCo Teams using meetup.com in the next year. All right, take care, everybody, and I will see you back again in an hour's time. Thanks. Bye.